gives me great pleasure to welcome to my show. I have Zene and Tyler from the band Fight the Fade. Welcome, guys.
Hey, it's great to be here.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, I mean, first of all, I mean, we're here to talk about your music. Primarily, that's what we do on this show. And you guys have just released a new single called Buried. You've had a few other singles out before that as well, which we will get to in a moment. But before we kind of delve into those and future plans and things like that, what can I get your guys' origin story? So I've only recently heard of you guys because my sort of association with FiXT and all the music they kind of send my way, and the sort of like obviously being in the UK primarily, I haven't come across you guys yet because I know you guys from doing my research have been around for a while, or you've got a few like releases out there already prior to this. But I just want to get some background on you guys, if that's cool.
Sure. Zine, do you mind if I take this?
Yeah, go ahead. You've been in the band longer than me.
Yeah, so it kind of started. It started when I was about 16 years old. My older brother was doing some recording of like local artists and stuff like that, and he had a guy that he was kind of producing and writing for, and the opportunity came up to like play some gigs here and there with that project, and I'd only been playing any kind of instrument for about 6 months. So he kind of had to sell me a little bit and was like, no, I promise he's good, I promise he's good. And approached me and asked if I wanted to do some shows, and I'd never done anything like that before. And so I started playing with, his name was Jason, and I started playing with Jason, and we played some shows. We probably played, couple dozen, maybe handful here and there, like just locally in Oklahoma. We never went out of state or anything. And and then kind of my life, I kind of figured out like how to write music. Like I started learning how to write music, and so I started bringing my own things to the table and being like, hey, what do you think about this? And he would be like, oh yeah, that's cool, I think I can work with that. And then it kind of became more of a band rather than just his solo project and his songs, right?
Yeah.
And so we wanted to kind of create a band essentially in an image. And so he pitched the name Fight the Fade, and I was just like, sure, let's do it, sounds fun. And so I think it was about, I want to say right at the beginning of 2010, maybe, or the end of 2009. And so we did it for maybe about a year and a half, 2 years, with him as the vocalist, him as the main kind of writer, I guess. And we kind of got to a point where he was busy with family and things like that, and he wanted to step down and just basically stop being the hectic touring life and stuff like that, and wanted to be home with his family. And me and the other guys, we were kind of like, well, like we feel like we're just starting to kind of get some momentum. And of course, momentum as in like we've got 4 fans on Facebook, right? But we're like, we can't just start a new band, we've got all this new momentum. So we kept the name. And during the time when we were touring with Jason, Zine had been playing guitar in a band, and at one point
He had two fans.
Yeah, they had 2. And and I remember watching him. We finally crossed paths and played a show together. And I remember watching Zine, and like I said, he was playing guitar, but he did some backup vocals on some parts. And so I remember watching him and him coming up to sing. I'm going, I've got the wrong vocalist. Like that guy should be singing for the band. And so that was months prior to anything else, but it was just like, hey, that was really cool, that guy was really, really sick vocalist. And so when the time came, through contacts, I was like, hey, what about Zine? Do you think he would like be interested in doing vocals for the project? And reached out, and him and I went to IHOP and had some pancakes and had a conversation, and went pretty well. And he did an audition. What the audition was, perform one of the songs we had already written adequately, and then write something new, right? So you kind of have both ends of the spectrum, make sure you can write and also sing. And you know, he came in and just completely blew us away, and we are just like, yeah, you're the one, let's do it. And
That
so we've
song,
kind of
that
been,
song ended up being House of Cards, is the one that I wrote
yeah,
to.
Oh wow, cool.
yeah. So if you go listen, there's a song called House of Cards. We did a kind of a remaster of it a couple years ago.
Mhm.
And but yeah, that's, I mean, essentially Zene's audition track. But yeah, and so I mean, since then it's been kind of the same lineup.
Cool.
Pretty much since then, you know, we've kind of rotated drummers in and out, but aside from drummers, I mean, it's been pretty much the same lineup since about what, 2011, mid 2011, somewhere in there.
No, that's about when I came in. So
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like since you came in, we've
I got
been
you. Yeah,
in about like
yeah. I thought you were
2011.
talking about the drummers.
Oh, no.
um, yeah, I mean, the timing was just perfect because about the time that Jason decided he didn't want to pursue, the rock band thing anymore, I had also decided that I wanted to do something different than the band that I was in that they had seen me perform with. And I want to do less guitar playing and more singing. And so it's like the stars aligned and, everything just kind of fell into place. And, we haven't looked back ever since. So
Nice, excellent. And where does the don't know, that's a standard question, but like influence wise, because you guys mix like the rock, the metal with the electronic side of things. It's quite a heavy mix of both. It's a sort of, it's a genre, if you will, or whatever you want to call it, of a high passion of mine. I love that. I follow a lot of groups that do this, like obviously from back in industrial side of things. So you've got, I go back as, Sisters of Mercy, Nine Inch Nails, Ministry, all those sort of like bigger bands, White Zombie, all that kind of, Rob Zombie as well, all that lot. Going all the way up to today, obviously you guys follow you guys now, but a lot of your associate acts like Cell Dweller, and Seething Akira and things like that, which I mentioned before, show that those guys have been on here a few times, and my association with FiXT and whatnot. And there's been a few bands throughout the years that have kind of mixed that electronic sort of, I call it like kind of big room electronic dance music, as opposed to that sort of like, the sort of the industrial side, the hardcore side, if you will.
Right.
And you guys really do meld that very well. I mean, the first track I heard of you guys was Cut and Run. Back when you released that, was it last year, wasn't it? Or was it this year?
I think
Last
it was, no, that's February of this year, I believe.
Okay, I can't. This whole time period has been a blur.
Yeah, I agree.
It could have come out like 10 years ago and I wouldn't have noticed. But no, I heard that track and I got loads of play on my show. It got loads of once I came back to DJing in clubs and things, because I DJ rock clubs and whatnot over here in the UK, and playing you guys through a huge sound system, a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I was just sort of like, where does that side come in from? Because obviously a lot of my sort of side of things was the likes of Ministry and things like that. Those were my sort of like gateways into, and I love my sort of straight up electronic music as well. So drum and bass, big room, sort of big beat. So the Prodigy, Chemical Brothers, all that lot. UK sort of like scene was quite big. Dance scene, that, and over in Europe as well, we've got kind of a big electronic scene, or we have had for so long. But yeah, no, I was just curious, where does that come from you guys?
Man, we have influences from all across the board, but as far as the like industrial or electronic rock, Tyler and I have both been Nine Inch Nails fans since as long as we've known each other, and probably before then even. But so that's probably one major influence of the electronic stuff for sure. Linkin Park is another one. We get Linkin Park comparisons left and right, and that is a compliment I will take every single time.
That's a good one, because I mean, they sort of came out the block working with the Dust Brothers, I think it was, on Hybrid Theory, and they've always had maintained that kind of like electronic synthy type thing within their music, and obviously having in their ranks, having like a DJ and stuff like that to sort of trigger those things. I was a DJ in a metal band as well for the longest
nice.
time. So
I used to,
cool. I used to like, yeah, it was all right. It was a while ago now, but we did all right. I won't go into it. I always talk about them on this show, so I'm not going to talk about it. So, but they just sort of having that in their ranks, and obviously other new metal bands at the time had that as well. So
yeah, I mean, like personally, like my background, like I still listen to classic like new metal playlists like every day. Like that's kind of my like backbone for writing. Like and I mean, if you go back and listen to a lot of new metal as is, like it's not super electronic heavy.
No.
Like aside from like, let's say, some scratching and some DJ stuff like that. But like I think like for me, like the sonics of it, it was huge. It was like, it didn't sound like Guns N' Roses. It sounded like this big sonic spectrum of sound. And I just fell in love with that. I love, like, how do I obtain that big, when the guitars come in on the chorus and it's just massive sounding, like, how do I get that? And, I don't quite remember when the electronic stuff kind of came into play, but I give a lot of that credit to Linkin Park for sure, because they did a lot of that. And funny enough, I've not told him this yet, but like our sophomore record we did called Second Horizon, which was from 2014. That was like the first time we like really like cranked up the electronics and went big with it. And prior to that record, I discovered Clayton's band. I discovered Clayton, Cell Dweller, and his sonics and how big he made his. And he almost kind of blended like more of like a dubstep kind of thing with it. But, I was like, wow, this is huge sounding. Like, how do I, this is bigger than the new metal stuff. Cause it, and that kind of like got me more into the industrial stuff. And yeah, so I do credit some of our songwriting to Clayton for sure, because I discovered his End of an Empire album.
Yeah, that's a solid album.
That was the one that kind of like I got onto that, and but yeah, I'll have to tell him that at some point. But but yeah, so it's cool to be kind of like in the same field as him now for sure.
Yeah, I was going to go to obviously being signed to it's his label. Him and James co-found FiXT as a whole, and you're on FiXT Radium now. So
yeah,
they've just done this split. So it's Neon, Radium, and
Noir.
That's it. Yes. Yeah. But yeah, no, obviously it must be great being part of that now. And yeah, I mean, going back to what you said about the new metal sound and stuff, is like it really encaptured that kind of like low end of the sort of like hip hop sound that I find. Not just like they obviously tuned down to like A or something silly.
Sure.
A lot of them, I know Korn were just like literally slapping strings. But that, like, you're right, the sonic sound, it was that low end sound that really like just filled everything up. They also had that metal sound of the high end basically, and they just melded that together. And that
it's like the cool mixture of like the EDM dance music bass, the low end that dance music has mixed with metal. It just has a cool sound. That's kind of the backbone of that entire genre, I think.
Well, and I remember the first time I got my hands on Hybrid Theory, and listening through that record from front to back, I still vividly remember thinking to myself, like, how could anybody not love this music? Like, seriously, I legit had that thought, like, how can anybody not enjoy this? Because to me, like you said, it was huge. It filled that whole sonic spectrum of sound, and it wasn't just a wall of guitars. It was all these other ear candy elements that you didn't see at least at the time in a lot of rock music. And so once we started working with that stuff, I mean, it was just like peanut butter and jelly, like we just meshed so well with it that I think that's kind of been our niche ever since.
This is where Barney comes in and goes, well, I hated that record.
Do you know what? At the time, look, I've said this before on my show, and I'll admit it again, I was too cool for school when I was that age. Like Linkin Park weren't my band, if that makes sense. They were kind of like the tail end of the new metal. But bubble, if you will.
Sure.
And I've grown to love them now. Don't worry. I've grown to appreciate what they've done and how they've become. Or at the time, I didn't see it, because when I first heard it, it was like, oh, this is overproduced pop music, manufactured.
Right.
I was
right.
like 20, so you know, I had no real experience in anything.
Sure.
So I'm showing my age completely here. But,
I was about 12, so
Yeah, no,
to me it blew my mind.
Exactly. It's like because I've now gone to interview people of like your generation, I'll call them, who Linkin Park were their gateway band. They were
Yeah.
their venture into this side of things, whether they went, you know, full on, you know, heavy sort of hardcore metal, or whether they sort of went a completely other direction, soft rock, whatever, or into the sort of electronic side of things. Linkin Park seemed to be this magnet for so many people, and it got them into this whole thing. And at the time, I didn't appreciate that. Like I was, you know, I look back on it now, and I was fortunate to see Linkin Park a few times live, supporting various bands, small venues, you know, and then obviously they went and did arenas and stadiums and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, back when I was younger, I was a bit of a douche. So it,
weren't we all?
Yeah, and I've said it before, because I it's sort of like, you know, it's always a good message for someone to hear that if you're too cool for school, there is a way back. But yeah, no, it was Hybrid Theory. I purchased it. I remember when I bought it and everything. Like, it's stuck in my memory. I went to Tower Records in London. I picked that up, and I picked up Infest by Papa Roach at the same time.
Nice.
So two sort of like now iconic albums.
Sure.
And I was a DJ back then as well. You know, not gonna sort of, you know, but I wasn't very much into that. I was into my scratch and hip hop and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
I love my new metal, the early stuff. So we're talking, you know, Incubus, Limp Bizkit, Deftones, Korn, that sort of like run of bands that came before Linkin Park.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you know, those were my sort of, like, of the new metal, my bands. My sort of gateway band was Guns N' Roses, actually, and Iron Maiden. Those were my two sort of like. So I was showing my age there again. But it's, you know, and
hey, you didn't say Bon Jovi, so we're good.
That's true. That is true. I didn't say Bon Jovi. I maybe could have, but he came after Guns N' Roses, definitely. So, and Slippery When Wet was a pretty good album. Everything after that was, well, he's gone country. So, and that's not too cool for school. That's just all he can do. So, but yeah, no, just that like appreciating Linkin Park for what they are now, what they've become, not because of the obviously the tragedy that happened a few years ago.
Right.
It was sort of like over the years becoming more appreciative, because like when I play them at the club, that first album, it doesn't matter what track I pick, really, it fills the dance floor. You know, people love that album. And then Meteora as well, that was a fantastic album. The follow-up to that, and since, you know, it's just sort of like I said, back then I was young, stupid, you know, fully willing to admit that, but I don't hate it now. I do like Hybrid Theory. They got some fantastic, and they work with the Dust Brothers as well, and I like the Dust Brothers. They've done some stellar work in the time, producing music and obviously electronic music and whatnot. Yeah, that is my Linkin Park story.
I want to touch on something you said a little earlier that kind of relates to what you were just talking about. But you mentioned that you DJ'd rock clubs.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
I still do now as well. So.
Oh, you do now.
Yeah.
That was a weird cultural shock for, I mean, I think all of us, but for me, for sure. We did our first Europe tour in 2018, and we played mainly in Germany. We did a date in the Netherlands, and you know, they just love rock and metal over there. So it was by far the best tour we've ever done. But we played a venue in, I think, Oldenburg, Germany.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the name of the venue, but I guess the way that they work is they have concerts, but when there's not concerts, it's a big dance floor, and it's a club, essentially. It's a rock club.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of such a thing because we don't have that where we live.
Yeah.
I think it's Amadeus is the name of the
Oh,
venue.
Amadeus. Okay.
I've got the tour
Tour
poster right there. So
Gotcha. Yeah, we don't have that. Like if you go to a club here, it's hip hop and maybe like dance music, but it's mainly hip hop and more like just club, style music.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah,
say
they
what
don't
you hear
rock
more on the
music.
radio, more pop stuff. Pop and hip hop is all that you hear at clubs here. And so we played this venue, and then like right when we loaded off stage, a crew came out, tore the stage down, and it was like a wooden dance floor, and the whole, crowd stayed in, swarmed the dance floor, and they turned on Linkin Park's In the End.
Yeah.
And everyone was jumping, singing, dancing, and with the lights going. And I was like, what is this? I have never seen this before in my life. I just stood back. I even pulled my phone out and was filming it and like sent it to people back home. And I was like, can you believe this? Like, this is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Like, there's actually people that come to clubs and listen to rock music.
Yeah.
Like, we need that more here in the States. But
Absolutely.
You guys do.
yeah, it was just definitely a cultural shock thing. But it's good to hear that you have them in the UK too.
Yeah, we got them here. I've had residencies for about 20-ish years now. Sort of in and around the area I live here. Yeah, you're right, in the States, because I mentioned to you beforehand, I lived in Florida for a bit.
Oh, right,
for
yeah.
for about 5-6 years, sorry. And yeah, I was sort of hoping to go over there and maybe DJ some clubs. And you guys don't have rock clubs. There was an industrial kind of like EBM type fetish club, local one, but that's not really what I was gonna go in for.
Sure.
But everything else was
I've seen
like,
those places in the Blade movies.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Vampire clubs.
A nice blood shower coming on. Yeah, it was like one of those things. It was like a sort of like, oh, we don't have that here. I'm like, oh, okay, all right. And then I tried. I was like going to clubs, say, do you fancy doing this? Do you think this will work? Maybe after one of your gigs. And they're like, what? No.
No, why do we do that?
Why would we do that? What's the, that's not, we're not, we don't need DJs. And again, it was most of the places were top 40 clubs.
Yeah.
So it was everything that was sort of in the chart or anything popular by whatever popular artist. And so I sort of basically what I did, I started a music radio show and kept my DJing going that way, and then moved back to England, and my residencies kind of took me back, which was nice. So I didn't have to like go back begging or anything.
Sure. What were you in Florida for, if you don't mind me asking?
No, my wife got offered a job over there, transferring within the company she works for, and we just decided to go for it. It was just sort of an opportunity we couldn't really turn down at that point. Just purely on the basis that our kids were young enough for us to move, and they hadn't like started school or anything, so there was no big sort of friendship groups. And we just decided to
your friendships aren't real yet. We can move.
Yeah, exactly that. But we moved to Tampa, so
Tampa. My cousin lives there.
Excellent, nice bit of metal history there in the death metal scene. And I just sort of made myself known around that area, interviewing bands like yourselves, going to gigs, and I started working over there for the company I work for now. And they transferred me over here when I decided to move back. So, which is cool. I work for a big tech company.
Okay.
They're a fruit, if that makes sense. I try not to say they're Apple. I work for Apple.
Oh, a fruit. Gotcha.
Yeah. So
big fan right here.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
Never heard of them.
Never heard of them. Yeah. Awful products. No, I'm kidding. I can't say that. I have to double.
You have to edit that out.
I will. Oh, look at that.
Hey, you got the new one, huh?
You got the new one.
iPhone 13 mini.
Yeah.
Hey, the mini. All right.
Yeah, I got the 12 right there.
Yeah, same. Haven't upgraded yet. I didn't feel like it was that big of a jump for the money. So.
I agree with you. I'm not gonna disagree with that.
I had an 8 previous to this. So
right, okay, that's a worthy upgrade then. Yeah, no, it's very much a worthy upgrade. But no, I've been working for them for about 7 years now. So
it's really cool.
But yeah, no, it was good over in Florida. I enjoyed it. Obviously, we're, you know, just down the road from Disney. A lot of the gigs were great as well, and stupidly cheap. Like going to see Deftones and Incubus for $15 was. Yeah,
What?
Nice.
well, it was an amphitheater. I was on the grass at the
Yeah.
back, but you're still quite close to the stage, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The sound was
Mhm.
good. So it's like that, and obviously getting to see like Machine Head in a tiny venue, doing their
Sure.
evening with Machine Head. Just I tell my friends this all the time. They get so jealous. Just because like
We kind of have a similar. There's a similar venue here, called it's owned by Walmart, and it's called the Walmart Amp, and it's an amphitheater, but they have lawn, lawn spots, and so pretty much any show that comes through, lawn's like no more than like $35-$40.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm going to see Slipknot in like 2 weeks there, so for like $35 for a lawn, so it's like it's hard to beat it.
It is. They come over here and you pay, I think, what did I look at? Like 9 Inch. Let's take 9 Inch Nails. They played a big venue called the Royal Albert Hall. You may have heard of it.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
world famous.
Yeah.
But tickets were like £150 for like up in the sort of like gods, if you will.
And the nosebleeds.
Yeah, and which I think is about $170 ish, and I just couldn't justify paying it. You know, I was like, no, maybe if I ever move back to the States, it's probably going to be cheaper for it.
Sure.
It'll probably be a whole lot cheaper, but
Yeah.
being that big, it's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy.
Royal Albert Hall is like, that's kind of like you've got to be a special artist to play there, right? Like it's not just a regular venue that any band can play at.
At the moment, they've started taking in rock bands. So
okay.
9 Inch Nails, obviously, you've got an Oscar winner there, so there is some prestige with that. If you look at Trent Reznor and his track record now, which is absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
To think he had a hand in a lot of these things, and you think, really, did he? And he did.
He just did that new Halsey record.
Yeah. And didn't he do like something to do with Old Town Road or something as well? You know, the Billy Ray Cyrus.
Yeah, well,
they sampled him. They sampled him.
Yeah. He that 9 Inch Nails put out a like an instrumental record called Ghosts like years ago. And I guess whoever made the beat for Old Town Road sampled that song, like, and put it put it together. And then when the song came out, they're like, "Hey, this is a 9 Inch Nails song," and so then they had to credit him for it. So he just got to be like, "Okay, now like I think it won a Grammy." And
let me get that money.
But it's funny how that whole thing went. But yeah, he's everywhere. He's doing. I mean, between the producing pop artists like Halsey, and then the movie scoring, him and Atticus Ross. I mean, they're geniuses for sure. They have such a distinct sound. Yeah. Whenever, like, especially in a movie, like they did that Disney movie pretty recently called Soul.
Yeah.
And as soon as it came on, I was like, oh yeah, there it is. Like
the music in that movie is just amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. No, definitely. I watched that with my kids. It was great.
Yeah, me too.
Didn't
made me feel things
afterwards. It was him. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, no, it's Royal Albert Hall. They just had Blackstone Cherry play there.
Oh, okay.
They did a night there. Devlin Townsend as well.
Yeah, Devin Townsend.
Yeah, he does a couple of things there. Always done a couple of things there. So they've never normally had like rock or even metal bands in there. But yeah, they're starting to do that now. I think it's becoming more viable for them on that front. Any bands that put on, I guess, a production of some kind as well. Because obviously, 9 Inch Nails will have that big, sort of sound, whatnot.
I heard it through there's a band from your neck of the woods called Bring Me the Horizon, which I'm sure you've never heard of. and they did like a live orchestral recording at Royal Albert, and so that was where I first heard about it.
Okay. Yeah, they did. But yeah, it's just one of those. It's suddenly become a venue that some bands will hit now, because we're sort of, as with progress and everything, we get less and less venues. We lost quite a few venues in the last decade or so, just purely out of people, selling up leases and whatnot, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's just sort of leaving the sort of big venues. We don't have as many as we used to.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of those shows would have probably gone somewhere else originally,
Sure.
but that venue doesn't exist anymore. We still have like, obviously our arena and stadiums.
Yeah, you guys got the O2 and stuff there, but like,
Yeah, I got the O2. I think Tool just announced a batch of shows there next year.
nice.
And Red Hot Chili Peppers are doing the London Stadium and everything next year. So,
Wow.
you know,
We need to get over there.
You do.
Yeah.
You that was going to be one of my
I'm over
questions
there.
later on. Are you coming over here or what?
Yeah. Actually get out of the Gatwick airport.
Yeah, yeah. There's a few venues around that airport. No, I'm kidding. But let's talk about your music. Let's go on to that, because like I said, the first track I heard from you guys was Cut and Run.
Mm-hmm.
And really loved it. Really loved it. And you've just released another track called Buried. As well, which came out a couple of weeks ago. Where are we now? Came out on the 24th, didn't it?
It was like a week or two ago, something like that.
And you had, what's it, the other ones? Matter of Time.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of Time.
And Old Wounds.
Yeah.
And yeah, all fantastic tracks and everything, and it sort of grabbed my attention and whatnot. And how has that been for you guys in general? Because obviously, you know, the relationship with FiXT came around. Actually, let's go for that first. Let's go for the relationship with FiXT. How did that come about? Because obviously you talked about it earlier about Cell Dweller being an influence.
Yeah.
How did that like come about for you guys? What was the sort of you know, did you approach them? Did they approach you? Did you have an in between?
Yeah, no, they reached out. I want to say at the beginning of like 2019, I believe they reached out, and they were putting together their Future Rock compilation album, the most recent one that just came out.
Yeah.
And they they contacted and asked if we wanted to be a part, and like if we wanted to basically write, give them a new song. Like it couldn't be something that we'd already written and put out. Like it wouldn't be something new. And at the time, we had just wrapped our last record, the 2020 album. We had just finished writing, and we kind of like, well, we're kind of on like a small break right now because we just finished this record, so we don't have anything necessarily. And so we kind of stopped talking for like months. We didn't really contact each other, and then James emailed again and was like, hey, like, do you want to be a part of this? I was like, yeah, I'll be a part of that. And then like at the bottom tagged on like, and if you would want to talk about potentially, being part of the label at some point, we would love to talk to you, but first things first, let's do this compilation thing.
Yeah.
And so where Cut and Run came from is Cut and Run was actually a B-side from 2015. It didn't make the cut for a record that we were doing.
It was for the Second Horizon record, so the album cycle that we were writing for is where.
Yeah. So we've been sitting on it for, years, literally years. And musically, it didn't really fit what the Future Rock sound is, but what Zene had written, his chorus and his melodies and stuff, I was like, this is like really good, but the music all sucks. And so I basically just pulled the vocal stems out and rewrote an entire song around his vocals, and that's what Cut and Run became.
Oh, nice.
And so kind of thinking within mind, like Future Rock, like what would Future Rock sound like, right? And these massive EDM style drums and like big synths, and there's more synths than there is like actual like guitar in that song. But yeah, it just kind of worked really well. I got excited about it and then sent it over to FiXT, and they loved it. And from that point, we kind of started talking a little bit. We got on a Zoom call with James and Clayton, and because we've been doing this for a while now, and we get a lot of emails pretty regularly from like
management,
pay to win, management companies, or hey, I have a label, and they've got 65 bands you've never heard of, and you're like, how am I supposed to be, what are you going to do for me if you've already got 60 bands that no one's ever heard of, right? And so like I kind of blew it off, to be honest. I was like, like it's probably not anything. And so we kind of blew it off for a bit, and once we submitted the song, then we got on a call and realized that they're real people and they have an office and it's a legit company. It's not just some guy in a bedroom somewhere going, I am a label, and so we
they have
it feel,
contracts. They
yeah,
have
right.
contracts.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That was going to be a deal breaker if there were no contracts. We've done the handshake thing before.
Yeah, the handshake one doesn't always pan out very well. But yeah, so we just kind of started talking. I got on a call and talked to them for a little bit, and I was like, this feels pretty good, and then Zene did a separate call and got on and kind of felt it out. And we just kind of decided, like, yeah, let's move forward with this. Like, this seems like, we're kind of at a place as an independent band where it's like, how do we take it to the next level, right? Because like I can sit and email so many people, but that's only going to get me so far, right? Without having that little like extra whipped cream on top, and so bringing them in was kind of that topper. And yeah, it's been great. I love working with the guys, and I'm actually a part of the marketing team at the label now. Oh. And so I work with, I'm on a Zoom call with James or other people pretty much 3 or 4 times a week. So it's kind of become, part of my everyday life more so than just like, it's the label, they'll do their thing. But
yeah, no, that's cool. I mean, that's it's really good to hear, because obviously I mentioned to you before, I've known them for a while, worked with them for a little bit. But I've had Clayton on the show before, talking all things Cell Dweller and whatnot. And I've also had James on the show as well. Nice. To talk about all things sort of like FiXT and the sort of ins and outs of a label side of things as well. So that was a while. It was like near the start of this show, to be fair. It was like episode 19 or something, 18, 19.
What episode are we on now?
221.
No, nice.
So it's been a few.
2021.
Yeah, 20. And yeah, it's nice, because obviously I followed the label for years. They pretty much send me everything that they release as well, which is great. I get to sort of keep on top of all that. That's obviously how I found out about you guys. Recently had Toronto is Broken on the show, which is another artist they've got signed to the label, and obviously seeing Akira. Over the years, I had them on prior to their FiXT sort of tenure, if you will. And then as they've sort of gone on and sort of been associated with that on a sort of natural basis, nothing to do with me, but on a natural basis, they've kind of like got together on that front as well. So that's it's really good. I like that they sort of they're not overly like they're not pressuring anyone, if that makes sense.
True.
From sort of like my sort of like perspective, obviously as an artist it might be different, I don't know, because their turnover in like how many tracks they put out like every week, there's always something, which is quite prolific for a sort of independent label as well. And sort of every week there's at least 4 or 5 tracks, if not an album or an EP coming out. You guys, Becco, and any of the Neon stuff as well.
What really sold me on FiXT was after meeting with James and Clayton, and just learning that they care more about the music as a whole than, yes, making money is a part of it, but because of the fact that what we put out is so close to our hearts, it's our brand, or our band is very close to who we are, and near and dear to our hearts, and we want to make sure it's taken care of, and it's in hands of people that actually care about it as well, and they do that, and that was clear from the first time I chatted with them. So it's really been a great working relationship so far, and I'm excited that we took that leap of faith. So
what are you guys sort of like sort of forthcoming plans? I'm assuming there's an album on the way. And in that respect, I don't know if you guys have announced anything or have said anything about a plan for release. So I'm going to ask you now: is that a plan for this year, or is it a plan for next year?
Yeah. So I mean, we've been crunching on it. We've already put out 4 or 5 songs.
Yeah.
So those will all be a part of it. We're kind of at the point now where we have a handful of tracks, and we're trying to like figure out like basically what is the album, like we have all these songs. Do we, we want to do a couple more, like, write a couple more. So I think for right now, I would say that it's going to be sometime early next year. It won't be the end of this year, but it'll be sometime early next year for sure.
Yeah.
So the music industry kind of shuts down in December, and they don't really push everyone kind of goes on hiatus for family and stuff like that. So across the board, music industry shuts down in December. So it wouldn't be super beneficial for us to try to cram one out by the end of the year. So yeah, definitely beginning of next year, but yeah, no like official date or title or anything like that at this point.
Well, and my wife and I had a baby.
Oh,
you froze, Zene?
He's frozen. Quite. Yeah.
He's gone.
He's gone. And what a pose to leave on. No, I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
So you guys, I was going to ask, you guys are not going to release a Christmas single then?
No, probably not.
Probably not. No, that's fair enough.
I mean, I think there is one more, if it gets scheduled properly, quickly, I think there's one more single before the end of the year.
Okay.
But yeah, that'll be it for the rest of the year. It'll be at least one more track.
Okay, cool.
Hey, you're back, Zene.
You're back.
Yeah, sorry, my internet signal has not been super reliable right now for some reason.
You're good. The last thing you said was my wife and I had a baby.
Yeah, well, I was just saying that's been kind of a factor in it as well. That that kind of slowed us down momentum wise, because I don't know if you realize, but having a baby takes a lot of attention.
Yeah, I've got 3 kids, so I know where you're going.
Yeah. So it's but it's great, and I'm excited to get back to writing as soon as we can, so we can get it finished up and get it out there. Because there's, as awesome as the songs are that we have put out, we've also got some really great stuff in the pipeline that I can't wait for people to hear as well. But yeah, Buried is one of my favorites that we've done so far, and I'm glad we just put that one out a few weeks ago.
People seem to be liking it, so
yeah.
No, it's a solid track. I was going to ask how that's been going for you, because obviously it's only been out a week, and I know these things are tracked pretty quickly these days when it comes to streams and whatnot, and all that kind of stuff, and obviously getting added to various playlists and all that kind of stuff. That's very different from when I was in the industry.
It's very different from like 10 years ago, man.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I'm like, I was sort of in a band at the cusp of sort of like Napster and things like that where people were pirating your music, and I was in a band at that point where kids would come up to me and say, hey, we downloaded your music off whatever torrent. I'm like, oh, cool, you're not going to buy the CD off me then. Not eating today. No, I wasn't that bad. It was fine. The music got out there. We gave away a lot of our music for free back then anyway, so but no, it's and then sort of coming into it now and getting that kind of like, I guess it's the recognition, almost instant recognition. You can see like playlists have added you, and then obviously I'm guessing that pushes up your stream count and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Landing the editorial support from Spotify is a really big, because I mean, you're essentially, because I mean, where we live, we don't have like metal radio. There's not a radio station where I live that would play our stuff.
Country.
Yeah, country, and like or the rock station is playing, like the hardest thing they play is Red Hot Chili Peppers or Imagine Dragons, right? So it's like
tracks for the last 20 years.
Yeah, exactly. So landing a editorial is kind of like getting like a major radio spot. You know what I mean? Because it's suddenly forced in front of everyone's faces, whether they want to hear it or not. Like it's going to come on if they're listening to that playlist, and so. And of course, you do get some retention from that. You get people that come over and become fans from it, and it's it's huge. But yeah, like you said, like the instant recognition, like because I think with FiXT, everything we've put out except for Old Wounds has gotten pretty major editorial support, and and it was like
I don't know
pretty
why.
like
Old Wounds was a great song too, but
yeah.
So it's a good
We
song.
think it was a timing thing. I think it was something to do with because we pushed it like 1 month after Cut and Run came out.
Oh, okay.
And Cut and Run did really well, and it was like on the top of like the big metal playlist on Spotify and stuff like that, and it was doing really good. And so we were like, well, we got to ride this momentum. Let's get a track out ASAP.
Yeah.
And the playlists don't necessarily work that way. We've come to find out, like they like to kind of like hang on a track and like, no, we're working on this one right now. Give us some time. And then so we've kind of like spread out releases a little further to kind of help like facilitate that. But yeah, so it's huge, and you know, just bringing in the fan base. But yeah, Buried's doing great. We the quick little story behind that is, you know, we've put some records out, and we always get the kids in the comments that are going, this needs to be heavier. Why isn't it heavier? We wish you were heavier. And it's like,
where are the screams?
Yeah. And we've never been like a super heavy band. Like, I mean, maybe our very first like EP had some like kind of breakdowny stuff, but it was never super heavy. And so it's like there's this expectation that we were once a heavy band and we should do that again, but we were never really that heavy to begin with. So it was kind of like, well, you know, the answer to that was, well, let's just write a really heavy song and give. And
we've been joking with that idea for a long time. We're like, let's just write the most brutal track to shut everybody up and get on with our lives. And so Buried is almost like an answer to that.
Yeah. But I mean, we ended up falling, I mean, even though it's not like, you know, particularly our like the genre or style that we always shoot for when we're writing, like it was fun, and we both enjoyed, you know, the writing process of it, because it was kind of out of our comfort zone, right? Like, can we write a heavy song? I guess we'll try it, you know. And so to see the recognition and see the people, you know, we got editorial support on it, and to see the comments and the people really loving it and being like, yes. And I haven't seen a single comment yet that said it needed to be heavier. So I think we're doing good.
I'm gonna go do it now.
He's like,
no, it's really cool. I mean, that's one thing I have noticed with these playlists and general sort of tracking and stuff, that there is it's kind of, it's gone back a little bit, especially with rock music. It's gone back to that kind of slow burn, if that makes sense, where like a band will release a track and then that track will stay constant for a couple of months, or you know, the publicity wise, or playlists or anything like that. And I've noticed that more in the rock side of things than pop and dance, because obviously that there is a higher turnaround on that, whereas a good rock song, a good metal song, whatever, can last ages. There was a couple of bands that I've spoken to on here, and they had you know, they had basically a track they had for like 6 months, going through various playlists, getting taken off, putting back on, all that kind of stuff. But it was just one track, and it was that kind of like, they put a lot of like, you know, themselves put a lot of focus on it, but obviously they played with the editorials and whatnot, and it's very much like it used to be in that respect, where a band would release a track and it would stay kind of doing its thing, and then they'd release another one or release an EP or whatever, because there was a stage where bands obviously releasing every week or every month. They were doing this sort of like staggered thing, or not even staggered, but like you said, you lost a bit of momentum with yours because they were still working on the previous one.
Right. Yeah.
And
I kind of have a love-hate relationship with it all, like
just
the singles and all that kind of stuff. I mean,
go on.
I was gonna say, I kind of like, I love the album experience, you know, like there's so many albums that don't make sense out of context, you know, but when you sit down and listen to the whole record, you're like, oh, okay, I get it now. Like you see the bigger picture of it, you know what I mean? And so it's like, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with releasing half of the album before the album's out, you know what I mean? So it's like that kind of like, well, it's best, you know, for marketing and you know, support and staying relevant and consistent, you know, but also it's like, you kind of have to like sacrifice a little bit of your, I guess, creative integrity there to show half of your album before it's out, you know?
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing is, like, as a band, one thing we've always tried to do is stretch ourselves and try new things. And whether that be in the style of songs that we're writing, like writing a super heavy song, or in our approach to releasing the music, like if you're not trying new things, you're not going to get any better. You're going to get what you got last time.
Yeah.
And if we're going to be better, we have to try new things. And so that's part of the approach as well, as we want to try something different to see what it's going to take to get us to that next level and get our music in front of more fans that want to hear it.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's no sort of like, there is a tried and tested method, but it involves a lot of money. But when it comes to like independent bands like yourselves, and marketing on that front, obviously, if you're working with a label marketing, I'm part of the radio station that I do my show with. I'm their social media marketing person.
Okay.
I've certainly got a social media specialist, or I don't know. I haven't even got a title, but I look after all their platforms, make sure things are going out properly or content is being added to, especially the newer platforms that they're not, because they're fine with Facebook, they're sort of okay with Instagram, but when it comes to things like TikTok and
Twitch, the new social media platforms,
they're not so sort of comfortable with, and it's sort of like I'm building it at the moment, and I'm getting.
I sympathize with that. I feel like first of all, I kind of hate social media as a whole. Overall, if I didn't have to have it, I wouldn't have it. But in the age that we live in, you have to be connected on those levels for the fans' sake, if nothing else, and again to get your music in the hands of people that need to hear it. And so it's impossible to be completely, in my opinion, to be completely off social media at this point. But some of the new stuff, man, I'm still like I've got a TikTok, but I'm hardly ever on there because I don't know if I'm just too old or what.
I honestly, from the sort of research I've done on that platform, there's a lot of there is an older demographic on there. I learned through my kids about it. Like they're on it. They do their little dance videos and reactions and all that kind of stuff. But since going on there, especially with the station I'm with, the TotalRock station, the sort of demographic for that station is an older demographic because it's more. It's been around sort of like 20 odd years as an internet radio station, like predominantly rock. Well, it's always been rock. It's called TotalRock. But they're associated a lot with more of the classical artists, like classic rock artists, by sort of like the age of the DJs and the sort of style of shows that they have. Obviously, my show is a bit more for the younger crew. I use that with the crew with the hand gestures and everything as well. Yeah, exactly. And so,
the kids are doing these days.
Throwing them gang signs. And like sort of going on there and posting up things from classic artists or classic British heavy metal artists have got the most traction on there that we've had out of all the other posts. So we had what's his name, Biff from a band called Saxon.
Okay.
Classic British heavy metal band from back in the 70s, 80s. And they're still going today. But we had him going on their 8-second video going, "Hey, this is Biff. Check out our new album next year." That was pretty much it. And it tracked so fucking well. It was crazy. It was just like, oh my god, there is a market for this. So then we put out the guy who was a guy called Blaze Bailey. He fronted Iron Maiden for a portion.
Oh, okay.
And he did the same sort of thing, like 5-second video of him. Again, that tracks so well. So there is a market for this. The older lot, us. Well, I say I don't put you in my bracket because I think I'm at least 10, maybe a little bit more years older than you guys. So, but no, there's definitely an older demographic on there. You just got to find it away from all the sort of like dancey videos of people in various states of whatever. So,
well, and that platform, like outside of TikTok, like that, I would say the concept of how those, just endlessly scrolling on videos, right?
Yeah.
We're kind of moving, Instagram has Reels now, and now Facebook's getting one, and then there's Snapchat's about to have its own TikTok. And so it's like, you know, obviously social
YouTube has
media is
YouTube
moving
Shorts.
in that direction because it's so popular. So capitalizing on that and kind of figuring out how to do it, I think is important. But yeah, it's just kind of like an animal that, like, even, you know, working for the marketing team of the label, it's kind of like how do we take what we do but make it work on that platform, you know? Like,
how do we TikTok?
yeah, how do we TikTok?
Well, let me show
We'll
you.
have to figure it out.
So we have to do this and then point
Yeah,
at
yeah.
those things pointing up on the screen.
Sorry, you got to figure it out. See?
And like,
yeah, right there.
I signed to FiXT. And
create our own dance. Yeah.
Exactly. You got to make
That's
your
key.
song trend. You got to do something. You got to be like what they call Eskimo Cool Boy. I don't know if you've heard of those guys.
I've heard the name, I believe.
Yeah, they're a German band. They're a sort of, again, they're a crossover between dance and metal. And they've got previous albums out before, but the two sort of three recent tracks they've done have all gone viral, just because they're very catchy and dancey, and they sort of play on memes and things like that, the things kids do. It's
a little harder to get a song to go viral when it's like, you know, screaming and like breakdowns and
well, they've got that element in their songs, believe it or not.
Oh, okay.
So they've got like a sort of a really good sort of like catchy chorus, pre-chorus, whatever, and then they sort of like just go check them out, you'll see.
Yeah, you said Eskimo Cowboy?
Eskimo Cool Boy.
Eskimo Cool Boy.
Yeah.
Cool Boy. Okay.
Yeah. There's a track called Hyper, which was a big sort of thing during lockdown. And then another one they just
probably heard
called
of them.
You Got the Moves. But yeah, check them out. I mean, it's ridiculous videos.
I will.
But a lot of fun, and that's the sort of stuff that does seem to track well, especially in Europe, because they're German, so they've got that sort of market here.
I mean, we want to go back to Europe anytime soon.
I was going to say, you got to come over here. You guys and Seething Akira need to sort of get.
That would be a great tour, yeah.
You know, get a FiXT tour going. You know,
let's get the Annex on there too.
Yeah, get the Annex on there. I mean, you won't get Seldweller on there because he doesn't like to tour.
No,
so, as much as I want him to, he will not. So, and I remember having.
Hopefully, once stuff starts getting
opening back up,
being a little easier for us to get over there, we can finally lock stuff down. We had, mid 2020, we had a Europe tour booked.
Oh wow!
And we were supposed to leave like 2 months prior was like March 2020 when everything went down, and it was just like, well, we got to cancel everything. So we've got an itch that we need scratching, you know.
But I mean, if we can add the UK to our, Europe run, oh man, it'd be incredible.
Yeah, do it. Get. I'm sure. I mean, we got.
I just did a video. I did a video spot for a podcast in Spain just the other day.
Yeah.
So it's all over. So.
No, yeah, I mean, as soon as you guys come over here, I'll be there. You probably hit London. It's probably going to be the closest one to me. So,
sure.
Whichever place in London you play, it'll be good. On that front. But yeah, no, it's it'd be nice to have you guys over here. It'd be nice to sort of get tour. I mean, we've got gigs back to a certain degree now. So,
sure.
But obviously, you guys in the States are getting hit by it at the moment in a bit more of a.
Yeah, it's kind of sad because even like last week I was looking and it's just like tour cancellation, like March 2020 all over again. I was like, no.
I saw Chevelle canceled the rest of their run recently.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can finally get over this hump.
Yeah.
What's crazy though is like this year for me personally has been one of my busiest years, because I do a lot of like acoustic gigs on the side where I'll go and I'll play at like different venues or bars or whatever, and I'll play for 3-4 hours at a time. And this year I've been pretty slammed with gigs. Like I played the State Fair last week. I've got a gig tomorrow night at a brewery, and so I mean, I've stayed probably busier than I've been in years this year, in spite of everything. But it's so much easier, I think, for places to continue to socially distance and all of that, and bring in entertainment that's one person versus a whole band where you're going to have a large crowd of people. So basically what I'm saying is I'm not popular enough to be concerned for them.
To worry about it.
You're right. They're like, nobody's going to come for this guy anyway. Let's just bring him in.
You're not that's good. That should go on your poster.
Not good enough for large crowds.
Come on out, because nobody else will.
Social distancing specialist. I mean, that's pretty. I mean, that's good. Like keeping busy, especially in music, especially around this time. I mean, obviously the whole world shut down last year for a portion of the time. We were out for the longest time last year, and this year it's eased up a lot. Obviously, we've had our rollout of vaccines and all that kind of stuff, and you know, we've just opened back up again. It's kind of like the government have said we've just got to live with it now.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, because the majority of us are vaccinated, so there's less danger on that front. Obviously, there is a portion of, especially the younger lot, that aren't vaccinated yet, so they're sort of working on that at the moment. But
Sure.
I was fortunate enough to get it early, so I was sort of vaccinated quite a while ago now, and I feel a lot more confident going out. Obviously, going back out and DJing and stuff like that. I mean, in crowded rooms.
Yeah.
A couple of get people come up asking for stuff, so they're breathing in my face. And
I don't think I've ever been to a show where someone wasn't talking to me right here, you know, trying to tell me things other right
in your ear, like you distract it and make everyone dance, and you're like, everyone's dancing.
Yes, I mean, hopefully, I mean, we're kind of in this boat where we're kind of just waiting to.
Yeah,
we have a meeting next week with our booking company, and kind of seeing where they're looking at for the next year, and you know, hopefully try to lay in some kind of tour coinciding with an album release kind of thing.
Yeah.
So but I don't know, I have no idea what Europe's looking like, or like getting us over to that part of the world. So just kind of have to wait and see. And I mean, as soon as we have something confirmed, of course we'll share it on socials and whatnot. But
fantastic.
We will be more than excited to be sharing that everywhere.
Yeah. Finally.
We've gotten to play 2 shows in the last like year and a half, and they were like within a week of each other.
Yeah. It was nice to kind of shake the dust off a little bit, and you know,
we got to play some of the new songs and some of the songs from In Love, In Hope, and Peace that we never got to play live. So that was really cool because we released that album and then everything shut down, and we didn't get a chance to like see how fans responded to it live. And like the song Devil ended up being huge for us, you know, as far as streams and stuff go, and we didn't even know how it would feel to play it on stage, you know, because we didn't get the opportunity. So I can't wait to get back out and play rock shows.
Excellent. Well, I've got a couple of questions left for you guys, if that's all right. Sure. And then I'll let you get on with the rest of your day. So these are sort of my tail end questions, ask everyone. But what I want to get from you guys is your 3 most pivotal albums. So the ones that kind of made you want to be in a band, be a singer, be a guitarist, be a songwriter. Obviously, we've mentioned Hybrid Theory already. I think
that one's off the table.
That one is now off the table because we've already talked about it, and I've already gone through my diatribe about when I didn't like it and then come back again, admitting that I'm wrong and whatnot. But doesn't hurt, honestly. I don't regret it. It's fine. But yeah, if they're like the other albums around that time, the ones that sort of gave you that gateway into this, or you know, like you say, the one that I first heard and go, I want to do that. That's what I want to do.
Go first, Zene.
Well, it's really difficult to narrow it down to just 3. I would say probably one of them would be With Teeth by 9 Inch Nails is definitely one of them. I was between that one and Year Zero. Year Zero is also really, really good. But probably With Teeth is one of them. Another one is probably the album Jesus Freak by DC Talk was a big one. I grew up in a big Christian household, and like that was my gateway into just guitar driven like rock music as a whole. And so that's really what got me started in rock music. And which is funny because they're like a hip hop group. but
the hip hop group with guitars.
Right. Well, but that album actually hit pretty hard for its time. So, and anything my parents were a little like leery of letting me listen to was good. But yeah, and then I guess the third one, I only get one more. Probably Beautiful Lie by 30 Seconds to Mars.
Cool.
Those are good picks.
Yeah,
good picks.
I'm going to say Meteoria from Linkin Park. Since I can't choose the other one. So we'll say that one. And then my gateway into metal music was Slipknot.
Cool.
I remember watching MTV when they still played music videos, and the music video for Duality came on, where they're just like it's like destroying a house and all that, and I was just like, I've never seen or heard anything like this before. Do I even like this? You know? And I've come to realize over time, like things that I'm skeptical of upon first listen tend to become my favorite things, you know, because it kind of pulls you out of pulls you out of your comfort zone, like, I don't know what this is, you know, do I like this? And so that album for sure, like that was my gateway into like metal, period. Anything heavier than, you know, Linkin Park, I would say. So Subliminal Verses by Slipknot, I would say. And then number 3,
Second Horizon. Is that it?
No. I'm kind of cheating. I'm looking at my Spotify right now. I'll go with Teeth as well.
Okay.
I'll go with Teeth from 9 Inch Nails.
I'm surprised you didn't go Year Zero since I did with Teeth.
Well, I mean, that wasn't, we couldn't do Hybrid Theory because we already talked about it, but
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like
Hybrid Theory would have been on there too.
I know 9 Inch Nails was around a long time before that album, of course, but that was like my introduction to them. Again, watching MTV and seeing music video for, I don't remember the big single off that, Hand That Feeds.
Oh yeah.
And watching that and going, what is this? You know, what is this music? I never heard industrial before, like, you know, and kind of gatewayed into that. But
nice.
Yeah, classics.
Yeah, no, I mean those I mean they're all solid albums. I'm gonna have to check out the DC Talk Jesus Freak. Don't think I've heard that one, which is great because I always look for these things when people sort of tell me their pivotal albums and whatnot. I always go back and listen to some of them. Good because I haven't heard that. With Teeth, I know that album, Year Zero as well. 30 Seconds to Mars, they were huge for a minute.
Yeah,
they probably still are if he decides to do anything. But
I think they got a new single coming out, actually.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. But it's just Jared and Shannon Leto now at this point, I think.
Okay. Fair enough.
They got Ghost Riders.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm Meteora. Yep, we already talked about Linkin Park and Slipknot as well. Slipknot are massive favourites of mine.
Sure.
Again, it was that like with you, it was like listen. I mean, I was with, you know, I got onto them at the first album because I'm that old.
Right.
But it was you know, I got to see them in a tiny venue as well, which was, I say tiny,
that's
it was
cool.
about 2,000 capacity venue.
Yeah, but for them that's a small venue.
For them that is a small venue now, yeah, definitely. And I've seen them sort of go up and play festivals and big stages and arenas, but like just the chaos, the utter chaos that was going on in front of me, and with me involved in mosh pits and all that kind of stuff. And it's one of the, like, I've never been in anything as intense since.
Sure. I'm seeing him for the first time on the 26th at the amphitheater here, and this is my first time, so I'm
okay, cool. Well,
I'm not going in the pit though.
No.
I'm too old for the pit.
Yeah, I know
my body can't take that anymore.
No, that's why I couldn't take that at all. But no,
Yeah.
they're great. Every time I've seen them, they've always been like on point.
Awesome.
It's one of those bands that have been consistently good and got better like throughout. Like obviously the sort of like raw sort of element of it, of the sort of run of their first album here, of seeing them in that small venue and the sort of mystery around them, the masks, and they were like, you had Sid diving off the balcony onto the crowd, and we're talking like a balcony that's like probably about 4 or 5, 6 stories high, and I think he actually injured the person he landed on.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
No. And just sort of like seeing that, and then watching them play, you know, bigger venues and stuff like that. And I was in the crowd for the Disaster Pieces live.
Oh, were you really? The DVD?
Yeah, because that was at the
That's amazing.
Arena, and that was good because they have supporting them. It was two sort of big. I want to say it was Disturbed.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They opened, weirdly enough, and I want to say it was either Linkin Park or someone else. I think support.
Probably another.
I can't remember. It's all become a blur.
New metal artist at the time.
Yeah, or it was Rammstein or something. It was like
Limp Bizkit, something.
Yeah, it was one of those bands. There's a whole load of those bands. It just meshes into one show after a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, solid. I mean, like I say, like those, solid albums. But I'm gonna go listen to that Jesus Freak one. See what that's all about.
Yeah, I mean, you may be a little disappointed looking at it now, but I'm just saying.
That's right, there's no comeback on this. I'm not going to come back to you and say, "God damn it, that was."
I'm trying to set your expectations right now.
Okay. That's all right. That's good. Don't hype it up. It's good. But finally, what are your hobbies away from music? So when you're not doing anything Fight the Fade or doing your solo acoustics or anything like that, what do you guys do to kind of like, you know, like say this is what I do away from it, or this is my thing away from that?
I mean, I try to like, my hobbies are creative outlets. So rather that's like music, or I'm doing video, you know, 3D animation, or if I'm doing graphic design, or I'm doing, you know, production, or if I'm producing another artist or mixing another band, like, I mean, I kind of live in that world. And, you know, outside of that, I mean, I take my dogs for walks sometimes, and
cool. That's good.
You know,
that's good. I've got a dog. She's not in here actually. She's normally behind me, but no, she's not.
Mine were knocking on the door a minute ago, so I was trying to keep them out so they wouldn't disturb the podcast.
It's all right. I love dogs. It's fine. So
yeah, mine's outside right now for the same reason.
Okay.
But yeah, for me, it's right now, lately, it's been assembling furniture because we not only had a baby, but we moved into a new house. So then, of course, we needed new furniture. So that's been all I'm doing. But as far as just like outlets, I'm kind of in a similar boat with Tyler. Like a lot of my hobbies are other creative outlets, whether it be you know, doing print media or graphic stuff, or I work for a church here, and so I do all of the music and then all of the multimedia and that kind of thing. So that's my full-time day job, on top of taking care of my kids, you know, taking my kids to school, and, you know, changing my baby's diapers, that kind of stuff, all the regular guy stuff. Nothing to
changing diapers, regular guy thing.
That's right. Mowing the lawn with my New Balances.
I can't speak on that. I don't have children.
But yeah, aside from regular creative stuff, it's just normal everyday life, man.
Cool.
So
no, that's cool. No, that's all good. Yeah, I've got 3 kids of my own, so I know what that's like. I've got my dog of my own as well, so I've got them all. It's I just sent my oldest to university, so I'm like,
cool.
You know, I'm down one right now. But yeah, no, it's nice watching them grow up and everything like that, and just sort of being part of that side of it. I was well, they call it a stay-at-home dad for about the first 5 years of the the youngest two, if you will, the first 5 years of their life, I was staying at home and doing the parent thing full time. So,
Sure.
and yeah, it's it's tough. It's tough. I wouldn't want to put that on.
Yeah, my wife finally goes back to work this next week.
Really? Okay.
Like she's finishing her maternity leave this week, and so this next week will be our first week to like have our newborn in childcare, and trying to see how that goes, and finding a whole new rhythm in life again. So it's a lot to juggle because we have a newborn. We also have a 5-year-old and a 9-year-old.
Okay.
And so, they go to school. The newborn's going to be like in daycare or with family or something, depending on the day of the week.
Yeah.
And so trying to find rhythms I'm a very structured person. So I like to have, I like even our Fight the Fade writing sessions, I have to schedule them to make them happen.
Yes.
And so Tyler and I will block out a weekend or something, and I'll go up there, and that's the focus. So for me to have downtime, it has to be scheduled, believe it or not.
No, I feel that. That's fine. It's all good. It was good to have a schedule. It's nice to have things sort of like make time for those things. As much as you want sort of inspiration to hit and then do it, it's sort of like as long as you're sort of like depending on the way you work, really. If you want that selected time, like you said, you can make it happen and you get that sort of in there. But if you're in the middle of something, you've got your phone.
Yeah, thank you, Apple. I can take my ideas down on the notepad. I do plenty of that too. If something hits me in the moment, I'll write it down.
Yeah.
And then when we have that time together, then that's when it's applied. But
my phone is filled with garbage voice memos of me singing like random melodies or things like that.
I had this idea ages ago of I should like release voice memos. And, like, just get people.
Please don't.
Like, just get musicians to send me just like a selection of their voice memos and just release them.
See what happens.
No profit, no things, just to see what happens. To see if because like there's so many every sort of like throughout doing this podcast over the past however long I've been doing it, the voice memo thing is the sort of thing that everyone's got, and I was just like,
sure.
Let's just do that. Let's just release that because I think Apple released a music memo app as well where you could multi-track.
Did they? I didn't know that.
Ideas. Yeah, it's like a free.
Maybe it's not available in the States or something.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, you have to take my word for it. But, this was. I think it was that. Yeah, it was Apple because they had voice memos and they had music memos, but they didn't really market it. I was like, what the hell? Why?
Yeah.
But it was a really good app. You could multi-track your ideas. So if you had like a beat and then a melody. And then or a guitar riff.
I'm gonna have to look for that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I guess they might have integrated it into GarageBand actually.
Okay.
But I don't know if it's still a separate app or not. Let me just have a quick because I definitely downloaded it once.
Well, it's funny you mentioned releasing the voice memos because I think it was last year, maybe it's 2 years ago now. Maybe anyway, I put out a solo record. And the last track on that is literally just a voice memo from my phone.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That is just an idea that the riff ended up being the riff in the first track of the album. But it's so I use the voice memos and the notepad like religiously on my phone.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a great tool. It's an unsung hero of the musician, I feel.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter what phone you've got. It doesn't have to be Apple. It can be anything.
Yeah.
Anything.
But,
don't worry.
But if Apple if you're listening, Apple, if you're listening, it should be Apple.
Yes, it should be. I'm looking directly at it. But guys, thank you very much. I really appreciate the time. I've really enjoyed the chat. And yeah, good luck with everything. Hopefully get you guys over here. But I will continue to play your music as long as you're releasing music and things like that.
Will do.
And I'll obviously I stay in touch through FiXT and stuff, so I'll be downloading whenever you release something. It gets downloaded to me anyway, so it's all good. on that front. But yeah, Zene, Tyler, thank you.
It's a
Yeah,
pleasure to
absolutely.
meet you.
Thank you.